Morning. It's Sunday, January 14th, and today I want to talk about something that happened during the Depression. During the Depression, times were tough. And the Depression started in 1929 and it didn't end till 1939. And many people lost their jobs and it was a terrible situation in the United States and probably in many other parts of the world at that time. And realistically, we didn't come out of the Depression until the Second World War started. That's when their jobs became very plentiful. Some inventions in that period of time that are still around today that are worth noting, that were created during the Great Depression. And I want to tell you what they are, because they're still in working order. And these are things that I would not have imagined as having been invented in such a way, as they say. So let me talk about the first one. The first one is pretty amazing. Sliced bread. Before the Great Depression, when anybody wanted a sandwich or a slice of toast, they would have to cut a slice off their own bread, their own loaf. But that changed in 1928 when a bread slicing and wrapping machine was invented by Otto Rohwedder, and it made its debut at a bakery in Chillicothe, Missouri. The machine proved to be so popular that Rohwedder had trouble keeping up with the demand for his machine from other bakeries. After the Depression, he realized that he could sell his machine to a larger manufacturing company, and that was a happy ending to the story. The owners hired the inventor as the vice president and sales manager for the new division of the scene. And in 1930, Wonder Bread started advertising its own sliced bread, and Wonder Bread used its own machine. So the bread slicing machine that Rohwedder invented exploded as the trend grew, and by 1933, sliced bread accounted for 80% of the bread sales. This invention was so influential, it led to the phrase that is still used, the best thing since sliced bread. How about that? The second thing I want to talk about, and these things that I'm talking about, I wouldn't even consider them as an invention. It's not like an automobile or something. But here's the second one. Before the Depression, the DuPont Chemical Company had a fundamental research program, a team of scientists that were assigned to increasing the scientific knowledge rather than developing specific products. And with the economic downturn, the division became more focused. It was already working on synthetic textiles and had invented something called neoprene, although that material wasn't particularly useful at that particular time. They also worked with rayon, which didn't make a great substitute for silk. It was only partially man-made. Nylon was the first entirely synthetic fiber developed by DuPont that was actually useful, and its invention in 1937 was a very bright prospect considering the economic situation in the world at that and the cost of raising sheep, and of course the cost of growing cotton. But it had other uses. In 1938 it started appearing in toothbrushes. And then in 1939, at the New York World's Fair, that was the first day nylon stockings became available to the public. And around 800,000 pair of nylon stockings flew off the shelves. So DuPont's Depression-era investment in fiber technology paid off with huge profits. And 40% of its sales came from the products that didn't exist exist before 1937. And that includes some of the other things like neoprene and lucite. So while I look at these things, I don't necessarily call them inventions in what I would consider the true sense of the word, but they are considered inventions. And they certainly have improved the lives of many people on the face of the earth. There's another winner that I wouldn't necessarily call an invention. How about Scotch tape? Richard Jew, the inventor of Scotch tape, cut his teeth as an inventor by creating masking tape in his spare time. He was doing this in his first job as a lab tech at 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. And he delivered sandpaper samples to auto manufacturers. And hearing from the auto manufacturers that they had problems when painting their cars and protecting windshields and the windows on the sides from the paints that were being used on the cars. So that set him off on creating something called a DIY masking solution. That's do it yourself. And he designed the perfect tape. He worked at it at 3M first, but after he got scolded because he was messing around on the job, he finished his invention, so-called, at home. And then when he brought it back to 3M, they were crazy over it, and they gave him a big promotion. And I don't know if he was making tons of money or not, but he created masking tape. And you know how easy masking tape is to use. It doesn't get stuck to anything. It's not like Scotch tape. It's a wonderful invention. But I never even would have considered it an invention. And then he went on to work on something else. The batteries had started using new invented cellophane for packaging, but nothing attractive to seal it with. So he started inventing and screwing around with clear tape. The adhesive that he used on the masking tape looked brown. So he invented a new type of adhesive to make sure that this tape stayed clear. The result was cellophane tape. And we all know what that's called today, Scotch tape. It was inspired by the early version of Drew's masking tape, which had adhesive only on the edges. So here's a guy who went to help out the auto manufacturers, the auto manufacturer painters, as in a sense. And Scotch tape debuted in 1930, right before the start of the Great Depression. And the product came along right in the nick of time. People use Scotch tape for everything, from mending clothing to capping milk bottles, and even repairing cracked eggs. So think about that. Inventions in the 1930s that, in my mind, are not even inventions, in a sense, but they helped create better living conditions at that particular time and forever. Scotch tape is still around, right? Nylon is still around. So we have to give credit to those people who thought outside the box. Let that be a lesson to you. Nothing is beyond the capabilities of human. I leave you with that this morning. Have a great day.